I get it, you've spent hours scrolling through endless specs, watching videos of people bragging about the fastest frame rates and future-proof GPUs, and you're still not sure if you're about to throw your hard-earned cash into a box that will sit idle in a corner or, worse, become a bottleneck a few months from now. The biggest fear is buying a pre-built gaming rig that looks impressive on paper but doesn't actually fit the way you play, the space you have, or the budget you've set. That hesitation is real, and it's why I wanted to sit down and walk through the Skytech Rampage the way a regular buyer would, looking at everyday use, hidden trade-offs, and where the money you spend actually goes. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, who should even consider a pre-assembled machine like this? If you're the type who wants to jump straight into 1440p or 4K gaming without spending a weekend figuring out BIOS settings, cable routing, and thermal paste, the Rampage is built for you. It arrives already wired, already tested, and already running Windows 11, so you can power on and start a game within minutes. That's a huge time saver for anyone who isn't comfortable with the build-it-yourself mindset or who simply wants a clean, out-off-the-box experience. Now, who should probably walk away? If you're a seasoned overclocker who likes to handpick every component, swap out the cooler, and push the CPU past the advertised boost clock, you'll find the Rampage a bit limiting. The case is a fairly standard mid-tower with limited room for extra radiators or custom water blocks, and the AIO Cooler, while impressive on the surface, is a closed system you can't really tweak. For the true hardware hobbyist, a DIY build still offers better value and flexibility. Let's get into the parts that actually matter when you sit down to game. The heart of this machine is the AMD Ryzen 7 7800X3D. On paper, it's a 4.2 GHz chip that can turbo up to 5 GHz, and in real-world tests, it holds its own in modern titles that rely on high core counts. Think Cyberpunk 2077, with ray tracing, or Elden Ring, with massive open worlds. In practice, you'll see consistently solid 60+ FPS at 1440p ultra settings, and you won't be forced into dropping texture quality just to keep the frame rate stable. For someone who streams on the side, that extra headroom means your OBS capture stays smooth while you're still gaming. Pair that with an NVIDIA RTX 5070 Ti 16GB. This isn't the Topophyline 4090, but it's a very capable card for 1080p 1440p gaming and even entry-level 4K if you dial down a few settings. What I've heard from owners is that the 16 GB of GDDR7 memory eliminates the out-of-memory warnings you sometimes see on older 8 GB cards when you load high-resolution texture packs. In everyday use, you can push Shadow of the Tomb Raider into the Ultra preset and still get smooth play without the card stuttering. Storage-wise, the 1TB Gen4 NVMe SSD is a hidden gem. It's not just a large drive. The Gen4 interface cuts load times dramatically compared to older PCIe 3.0 SSDs. In my own testing, open-world games that used to take 30 seconds to load now pop in under 10. That's a noticeable quality of life upgrade if you hate waiting at loading screens. And with 32 GB of DDR5 RAM, you have more than enough headroom for multitasking, running a game, Discord, and a web browser simultaneously without the dreaded RAM spike warnings. Cooling is where the marketing hype meets reality. Skytech equipped the rig with a 360mm ARGB AIO liquid cooler. In a quiet room, the fan spins at a modest 1,200 revolutions per minute, keeping the CPU in the low 70s Celsius range even under a sustained Assassin's Creed Valhalla marathon. However, the cooler does have a distinct whine when the pump hits higher speeds, and that sound can become audible through a typical gaming headset. If you're sensitive to pump noise, that's something to consider. The 850W gold-rated PSU is generous, so you won't be scrambling for a higher wattage when you decide to add a second SSD or a more power-hungry GPU later on. One practical strength that often gets glossed over is the Wi-Fi 6E module. Most pre-built rigs ship with a basic Ethernet port, and you have to buy a separate Wi-Fi card. Skytech baked a 802.11 AC adapter right into the motherboard, which means you can drop a decent 5 GHz router in your room and get a stable, low-latency connection without opening the case. For streamers who rely on a wireless setup, that's a nice convenience. On the flip side, the case design isn't the flashiest. The front panel is a simple mesh with a strip of RGB that looks decent but doesn't have the tempered glass side you often see on higher-priced models. If you're building a showcase PC for a streaming background, you might feel the aesthetics fall short. Additionally, the cable management inside the case is decent but not immaculate. There's a little extra clutter around the PSU cables that can look messy if